In fact, back in the ancient history of my channel, the 6th game review I ever did was actually of LEGO Racers. But like every other old video of mine, it's time to get real. Behind the wheel. Oh, this opening, it still gives me nostalgic chills. If you want me to feel like a kid again, you show me this intro. I don't know why you'd want me to feel like a kid again. We then get shown a high-octane cutscene that, again, takes me right back to my childhood when I first laid eyes on this game and thought it looked like the coolest and most exciting thing ever. Especially when the PS1 graphics and FMV worked really well with LEGO, since most of the PS1's attempts of making real-life people ended up looking like LEGO anyway. And let's be real, the game itself kicks you hard everywhere else with the amount of stuff you get to play with right off the bat. For a game about LEGO pieces going to the races, this is one of the most comprehensive toy boxes for creating your own cars and characters to play with of all time. And this is a PS1 game from 1999. Now, since I have no imagination, I decided to make a character comprised of the ugliest choices in each section of the body. Perfect. I'll name him Uncle Dip. And let me just say, this uncle is ready for a dip. But what kind of car does he drive? Well, that's easy. Welcome to the Dipmobile. Yes, amazingly, when it comes to creating all of your cars, if you have enough space on the body that you chose and the bricks fit, you can drive it. Which is not only impressive, but also means this is the only kids kart racer that allows you to drive in a medieval coffin with a spoiler. I mean, sure, you can't see Uncle Dip inside of his own car, but by doing that, I think I've done the world a favor. So as you can see, this is a pretty standard kart racing game. You've got multiple racers against you, tons of tracks based off of themed LEGO sets of the time, power-ups to pick up and use, shortcuts to discover by solving puzzles on the track or blowing them up with rockets, and you have to try your hardest to get to first place in each Grand Prix so that you can gloat. The major problem I have with LEGO Racers though is how it controls. I've got to be honest, it doesn't feel that great to play nowadays. The speed is fine, but the turning is some of the heaviest and most awkward I've ever touched. And trust me, I know what you're about to say, it looks obvious why my turning is heavy, doesn't it? But even though the customization aspect may be one of the best bits of the game, from my experimentation, it doesn't make a single difference to the handling of your cars. Nope, not even with the special car bricks you can unlock by coming first in the Boss Race Grand Prix against classic LEGO characters like Captain Redbeard, Johnny Thunder, Basil the Batlord, and Mr. Race Complication. I even made a special car that was completely naked because that's what Uncle Dip likes, and it was just as heavy, but nowhere near as funny as a giant yellow cube. The thing is though, everything else around these floors are so charming and uplifting, I can't be angry with LEGO Racers. Even the music is completely insane. I also really love the power-up system in this game. You see, you don't just pick a power-up and use it. I mean, you can do that, but here's what you should really be doing. Firstly, you have to grab a different colored brick to get a different type of power-up. A drop item, shield item, offensive item, and boost item, respectively. And then you can choose to either use it immediately or save it while collecting special white bricks on top of the current power-up brick that you have to make it more powerful, with 3 white bricks making it max power. You can destroy everybody in front of you, or open a literal dimensional rift to teleport ahead of the track. It's really cool stuff, and with all the other racers stealing the best power bricks that you need, it's not that easy to spam overpowered abilities, adding a nice bit of thought behind you using the low-powered attacks more frequently to get ahead, or just hoping that you get lucky and saving the more powerful ones for later. And then you remember that there's no 4-player mode. In late 1999. With Crash Team Racing already existing on the same system. How about Toy Story Racer? Another great PS1 game and one of the most underrated kart racers of all time, if you ask me. With some of the smartest and most unique track designs ever, mixing with bouncy controls that feel exactly like you're messing around with an RC car. And of course, there's my personal favourite, Toy Story 2, which is basically if Mario 64 was thrown into the Toy Story universe with ingenious open levels to explore, tight responsive controls, badass power-ups, tricky challenges, amazing music, and a rapid-fire super laser. Also, Buzz looks like a bloody potato. Alzheimer's.
Wait, no, that's not what.
Amnesia: The Dark Descent is a first-person survival horror stealth puzzle large Big Mac meal with carrot sticks that came out in 2010 and is the first thing that I think of whenever I think viral horror game. There were probably more popular scary games before this, but I don't care. Straight away, the game lives up to its namesake because the main character doesn't remember what his own name is.
What have I done? Don't forget, some things mustn't be forgotten.
So in that case, my name is Rethetheth, and let me tell you, this game is scary. And if you don't like strawberry jam, windy doors, and men that can't walk straight, this'll be too much for you. That's what you're doing for most of the start of the game, honestly. Following spilled ice cream, avoiding doors blowing off everywhere and falling over, and you begin to wonder what the big deal with Amnesia is. The game and the disorder, because, I mean, you only forget a few little things like your shopping list or your wife. But don't worry, because there's a very nice old fruitcake telling you all the backstory you need as you go through the game and your memories start coming back to you.
What did you call it?
The inner sanctum. My most precious chamber, Daniel.
And considering everything else you'll see in this castle, he really is the nicest man in the world that only wants to help you.
But like I always say about the nicest people, do you know what an anagram of nicest is? Incest. So...
And you'll quickly find out why. There's skulls in the cupboard, there's an electric hole, there's an invisible monster chasing you in the water, there's a dead body trampoline, there's a single beautiful bunch of flowers growing in the middle of the torture chamber. The castle is growing skin, and there's a baby throwing up into the bumhole of a man. Speaking of bumholes, that's what's chasing you in this game. Walking, grunting bumholes. They waddle around looking for you in the darkest depths of the castle, forever wondering how different things would be if they didn't go for that lockjaw surgery. And this thing? This thing is like if Disney did a live-action remake of Pac-Man. So obviously you don't want to be face-to-face with these mangy old flaps because they look a little intimidating and they'll kill you. That's another less important thing. But for some reason, our main man Daniel is in denial about being able to defend himself. He can pick up everything around him and lob it around like an Australian, but it doesn't matter if you can lift a rock or a sack or a book. It won't make a dent on anything around you aside from the environment for some really cool and clever puzzles. In its rawest form, this is a stealth game. The only way out of a sticky spot is to run or hide, and hiding won't save you forever because in all of the best hiding places, even the shirts are dead. You run, you hide, you pray they don't spot you, and even better, while hoping they don't spot you, you can't even look at the monster for too long lest Daniel-san wets himself and starts losing his sanity. Essentially, Amnesia is a big smelly puss simulator. I know violence isn't always the answer, but he's clearly okay with cutting off limbs in his memories and even drilling holes into heads in the present day, so cut this beta shit out. If you can pick up moldy bread, you can hit these things with something. One thing you don't want to throw anything at, though, is this nice young man. This is Agrippa. Another important thing? Light. See, if you don't have enough oil in your lantern or don't have any tinder boxes that you find scattered all over the place to light torches, lamps, and candles, you are stuck in the dark, which also ups the difficulty in a different way, by making you start hallucinating. Usually it's just cockroaches on the screen and on the floor, and yeah, whatever, I'll have cockroaches on my face, no sweat. At school they used to call me Jim Roach. But then it starts getting way more obstructive, like making you hear noises and voices from all angles around you to make you try and hide from something that isn't there, and eventually your vision will turn into how your eyes go after playing Guitar Hero. Movement and navigation gets trickier, and then you have to consider the light. You need light to stay sane, but then too much light not only drains your limited resources, but also makes you way easier to spot to the monsters. So you've got to balance light, hiding in the darkness, sanity, and not looking too long at the enemies, while trying to figure out where you're going, while trying to find hidden items, while trying to solve puzzles, while trying to be quick so that you conserve your light, but not too quick so that the sprinting alerts the enemies, while the deathly bellowing music screeches at you while you're being chased. And when all of the pieces fit together at the right time of night with the right pair of headphones, it's enough to make you... By the way, if light is so vital to my survival, why can't I just pick up candles? I'm more than okay rubbing against them and that's fine, but leaving them here seems really stupid. You're not Daniel, you're Dumniel. But don't panic everyone, it's okay. I've got a dead rabbit. In Amnesia, you'll be going everywhere. The library, the machine room, the prison, the sewers, the Morge Simpson. And like I've said already, there are puzzles too, which I not only really enjoyed figuring out, but also make a great bookend to the running and hiding and item finding you'll usually do beforehand. And I love it when my flow is even and stable. Amnesia may be 13 years old now, but it has held up super well. Everything it does complements each other and blends into a gourmet sorbet, and I can totally see why at the time it went viral, and why for my YouTube feed back in the day, it kickstarted a new dawn of horror game playthroughs. It also has raw meat, but Agrippa doesn't need that.
Well, that was the start of the video, wasn't it?
Part 1. Purple is gay. Right, so first off, no matter if you like Spyro or hate his guts, you cannot deny the iconic status of this box art. This color scheme, this art style, it's so PlayStation. It is perfect. I wouldn't change a thing about it. Why is that there? The story of Spyro 1 is that the press have gone over to the Dragon Realms to interview the dragons about a wretched old boil known as Nasty Nork, and they decide to make fun of him on live TV.
Besides, he is ugly.
Got a real Kanye West over it. Now, how did Nasty hear that savage diss all the way from his house? Well, you have to remember, this was way back in the 90s, and everybody thought TVs worked like telephones. Don't forget, TVs had only been around for 70 years. Because of that, Nasty Nork casts a crystallizing spell on every dragon in the kingdom, except for Spyro, because... Luckily for us though, Spyro is purple, and purple is a sick color. Everything purple kicks ass, which means Spyro runs off to kick ass, which means the game itself would inevitably kick ass. Except his voice, that doesn't really kick anything aside from my face.
What about Nasty Nork? I'm going after him.
Is it because of his color? Did they give him a chain-smoking teenager's voice because no one would think he was cool for being purple? That's outrageous. Some of the best things in life are purple, like bruises and ringworm.
Destiny? I just want to kick some.
Just toast those enemies and collect the treasure!
See, kids? Spyro is cool. He nearly said bottom. In Simon 1, you skip around luscious open environments unless the game stops you with the big shapes. Smashing all of your nan's china with your head, gliding from island to island, setting sheep on fire, occasionally fighting a boss, cracking open old men.
Run! Run!
And eventually run off to Nasty's lair to spit roast him. That nasty Nork is toast. And honestly, that's kind of it. This is a fairly standard collectathon platformer from the time. Find as many gems, dragon eggs, and crystallized perverts as possible in order to unlock more hub worlds to find as many gems, dragon eggs, and crystallized perverts as possible. But Simon does have some tricks up his sleeve to stick out above your Banjo-Kazooies and your Super Martins. Let's-a go, yahoo! In case you didn't notice, Spyro is a dragon, and that means he has 5 unique things that make the game work entirely on their own. 1. Dangly skin. Simon not only jumps like every other knobhead, but by hitting jump again can use the loose parts of his back to glide long distances. This isn't only an extremely fun and liberating thing to do in every Spyro game, but allows the level design to focus not just on horizontal flat landscapes. Now you can have giant, sprawling, and tall levels based on verticality. You see that glimmering secret pile of treasure far out there? Well, if you get yourself high enough somewhere else in that level, and not from a weed, you may be able to reach it. It's not even a case of you finding the one single place to cross that one single gap, turning the glide function into a situational invisible bridge either. You can glide off of any surface in any direction, which means the designers can hide more secrets in more creative places and gives you a breathtaking sense of freedom and adventure in each level, which can also be tense as hell. Whenever I'm about to make a risky looking glide, I always have this inner fear of, oh my god, I want that stuff over there, but is my glide going to be high enough to reach it? Well, I guess there's only one way to find out, so here I go. But once I'm gone, I'm committed, so I have to be confident. Oh god, I'm not gonna make it. 2. Bad breath. Instead of any clumsy jumps or precise melee attacks, Simon uses a wide, close-range fire breath attack to kill the enemy Norks or break open baskets for gems. Not only a really fun thing to do, but it looks cool, leaves little black ashes behind, and basically guarantees a hit if you're facing the general direction of the breath since it has such a wide girth. 3. The horn. Simon can use his horns for even more utility than the flame breath. It can break metal vases and baskets, attack basic Norks no problem, and gives you a speed boost which makes basic running around much more thrilling and quick. 4. Whirlwinds. If you jump into a whirlwind, the camera moves downwards and lets you look right up Spyro's. 5. Small thing that isn't a dragon and has nothing to do with dragons at all. That wispy little skinny lemon is Sparks the Dragonfly, and he is your health bar somehow. Yellow means you've got 4 hits left, blue is 3 hits left, green is 2 hits left, gone is 1 hit left, and then you keep yourself healthy by murdering smaller creatures that have no ways of fighting back, just like in real life. But honestly, I couldn't care less about health points. I just want Sparks to look yellow as often as possible, because blue and yellow look like spoiled cheese. I don't want Sparks to look ill, so I give him as many butterflies as possible. I will even go all the way back to the beginning of an empty level to top him up if I have to. No small animal is too far away for me to gut. But here's where things get interesting. On their own, the moves that Spyro can pull off are pretty sweet. But when you mix them together, whoa. You get big enemies that can only be flamed and armored enemies that can only be charged with your horns. Then you get enemies that are too big to charge but also armored from your flame, so a new weakness needs to be discovered. You get collectible dragon eggs that are stolen by thieves that are too quick to be flamed, so need to be charged towards all over the level while they go... This noise triggers my stomach acids. You get supercharge panels on the floor to make your charge get faster and faster the more time you spend on the panels, and the more time you spend on the panels, the further your jump and glide becomes. Yeah, most people hate it. But you're all morons. Sure, it takes me a few attempts to remember the routes and I die a few times every time I come back to it after a while, but the satisfaction of finding the correct starting point of a supercharge panel, jumping over to another island to keep gaining speed on another supercharge panel, and then making that one final gigantic glide over to the hardest to reach area of the whole game is ingenious and incredible to get right. I even like the little balance things going on with how you control Spyro, like flame breathing for example being an easier and safer attack to do against baskets and enemies, but the trade-off for that is that everything is slower and the gems that drop from them float up into the air and fall loose. But if you try and go for a risky charge attack as much as possible, you'll find it's not only faster, but then the gems will follow immediately after you once you break the basket or kill the enemy. I even love how you can charge different barrels towards the end of the game to attack the and you get those one-off bonus levels for each world that turns the game into a free-flying time trial of destruction. These will be known from now on as speedways. This is the reason people still love the original Spyro PS1 series even until today. It's the fine mix of all of these moves to make the series a blast to play, with a couple of extra references to other games for good measure.
I always believed in you, Spyro.
You gotta believe!
The charm of the world around you is off the charts too, and there's so much detail put into the tiniest things. If you charge into a bull instead of flaming it, it'll get stuck in the ground by its horns. If you move up a steep hill, Simon's walk cycle changes. Set fire to cacti and watch them shake the ashes off. Watch enemies capture smaller creatures and then get too distracted celebrating to attack you. Seriously though, there are Norks everywhere, and nearly every single level gives you a different variant of them, which the game really didn't need to do. There's Norks with swords, Norks with clubs, Norks with flags, Norks with tasers, Norks with guns. Norks with guns. Easy does it, easy does it. Also, I'm British, which means you probably hate me, but it also means that I love saying the word Norks. The hills have Norks, the castles have Norks, the harbours have Norks, the fairies have Norks. You know what's sad as well? In the Reignited Trilogy remake, they got rid of the Norks with guns and replaced them with purple water pistols. Oh, come on now. What? You don't like seeing guns in your video games? What are you, a cuckwoke? And hey, I may really dislike Spyro's voice in this game, but the other dragons you rescue are another thing entirely.
Spyro, my friend, how about a hint on gliding?
I love all of these guys. They're only ever on screen for like 5 seconds each, but they're the most memorable part of the game for me.
Ever since you're a wee puff of smoke, we've known, I forget.
They mostly serve as hints and tips when you find them, even though the hints are all horrible.
Big enemies like this Gnorc with the club cannot be charged, but a quick flame, that should defeat them.
Yes, I already killed that guy to rescue you. What are you talking about?
Did you know that you get your longest glides by pressing X at the very top of your jump?
How do you think I got here?
Flame won't harm metal, but charging with your horns, that should do the trick.
This is World 2. I've been doing this for the last 6 levels. Are you senile?
Be careful, Spyro. This boss has many tricks up his sleeve.
What does that mean? The best line in the entire game, though, easily goes to Cletus. My man Cletus. What does he say?
Spyro, it's great to see you, but I've got to go.
All right. Bye then. You know what all of the dragons' favourite thing is to say, though?
Thank you for releasing me.
I swear that most of these smelly lizards say this line on repeat, and by the end of the game, nearly every single one of them says it. You want to see how many I found?
Thank you for releasing me.
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 Thank you for releasing me. Thank you for releasing me. Thank you for releasing me. Thank you for releasing me.
Thank you for releasing me. Thank you for releasing me.
Thank you for releasing me.
But don't worry, not all of them say thank you. Some of them say thanks.
Thanks for releasing me.
Yeah, despite my accolades, I actually don't think Spyro 1 is that great, mainly because of how primitive and stripped back it feels, especially compared to the sequels, which isn't Spyro 1's fault, but I'm blaming him anyway. You know, it's weird. It always surprises me when I remember that the first Spyro came out in 1998. This wasn't an early PlayStation title, and yet I think it feels like one. There's just something missing. I can't explain it. There's no gimmicks, no major surprises. I mean, I do love simplicity and games that are to the point, but with cartoony collectathon Johnny John Spyro the Johnson, the simplicity holds it back for me. Especially when you compare it to the following games, Spyro 1 feels really plain, just like how Crash 1 feels compared to Crash 2. And by 1998, Crash 3 had already perfected the Crash formula, whereas Spyro was just getting his feet wet. And when Spyro gets his feet wet, he dies. The collectathon gameplay loop is pretty basic, and it gets a bit samey for me after World 2, with not much variety in what you actually do, aside from more dangerous glides and slightly different enemies. And for as much as I love the visual style, the presentation itself also gets a little bit too samey for me. Aside from that hole, these things can get royally shitted off too. What are these things? Why do they look like that? No matter how many times I replay this game, I can never remember the names of levels or tell them apart by screenshots. They just don't don't leave much of a lasting impact on me. I don't think there's anything entertaining or that endearing about the characters and story. Spyro's voice
I think I smell a barbecue.
makes me want to shit down a chimney. The sound effects feel really wet and sloppy without much impact or crunch. The charge controls are pretty damn loose and slippery. Glide can sometimes feel really heavy that doesn't always make its target even when you feel like it should. And then there's all the little things that add up over the course of the game. You hit these and then jump over them to get the gems. Why? It's awkward. If you miss it, you just do it again. These things you breathe fire on over and over again until they pop. Pointless. Then you have the soundtrack, composed by one of my favorite drummers of all time, Stuart Copeland. It's a soundtrack beloved by basically everyone. And I think it's... Yes, it's that Stuart Copeland, the drummer from the all-time classic rock band, The Policeman. And look, I don't hate the music, it's good music, but I don't get the undying love for this game's soundtrack in particular. I think it's way too spacious and meandering for the kind of game that this is. And if you tied a rope around my neck and asked me to match which songs go with what levels or else you'll hang me, I'd say, I don't know. But then I'd say that anyway because I don't mind this. Don't get me wrong though, when the visuals and music come together into a gourmet, creamy cereal, it's downright incredible. My go-to example being Dark Hollow in World 1. But as a whole, I just don't dig the soundtrack that much. It's well constructed, it's well performed, and there are some great tracks here. I just can't remember most of it, and I don't think it matches the gameplay that well. And these bosses, these bosses, these absolute garbage fire F-tier bosses, F for very stinky. These are the worst parts of the game for me. They aren't bosses, they're regular levels that are really small with slightly stronger enemies that I wouldn't let near a school. First boss, Toasty. He's a scarecrow that is actually a sheep on stilts. Hit him 3 times, he does nothing. These regular dog enemies are more dangerous than him. Second boss, Dr. Shemp. Hit his back after jumping over like 2 attacks. Third boss, Blowhard. More like blow chunks. Fourth boss, Metalhead. Charge into metal poles that aren't electrified. You win. Boss 5, Jacques. Do some platforming and then question why the hell he has a regular French name. Final boss, Nasty Nork, is sadly just as easy to kill as any other regular Nork. You chase him, he does nothing, you win. When the edge of the walkway is more threatening than the final boss, you know you've ballsed it. At least you got a pretty sweet reward for 100%ing the game though. You get access to Nasty's loot. The only actual free-flying level where you just explore everywhere, blow up everything, and steal all of his treasure. Thanks for the stimulus check, Nasty breast. Then the credits roll. Ah, nostalgia. You know, even though this isn't my favorite Spyro game and I do have problems with it, I do like it a lot still to this day. I enjoy this game, and every time I reach this credit sequence and hear this music and watch all the low poly flyby level camera stuff going on, it lets me know that I made a good choice in picking up this game to replay it again. No sheep were harmed during the creation of this game. Spyro 1 is a classic, no doubt. But at the end of the day, even though I've got a lot of nostalgia for it, this is not the game that I replay whenever I feel like a bit of him. It's better than Crash 1 for a first attempt, but it still feels like a first attempt. Okay, I'm gonna stop teasing you. Here we go. This was the game I was talking about. The PS1 heavyweight that actually started a million new skating game trends and spawned 1,000 poor man imitators. Tony Hawk's Skateboarding. Okay, it's not as catchy as Pro Skater, but did you know that proscator is a curse word in the UK? Yeah, it's true. It's very bad to say. So when this game came out in the UK, they changed the name of it. And if you don't like that, then you can suck my proscator. Now this was the one you were waiting for me to talk about, wasn't it? The good stuff, the original, the classic, the start of extreme sports games being so good that everybody would try copying it for years to come. The slow, the clunky, the lumpy, the not quite as good as your nostalgia would have you think. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, there is absolutely no point going back to Pro Skater 1 in my opinion, unless you survive off of disappointment. Don't get me wrong, this game is a classic, make no mistake. It planted every seed it needed to with the creative level design that took everyday locations and turned them into skateboard theme parks, and popularized the addictive gameplay loop of performing tricks while exploring to earn VHS tapes and unlock more levels. but there's so much not here, especially if you like the later Tony Hawk games. You can't manual to link tricks together on flat surfaces, you can't revert after landing from ramps, the level selection is pretty small, as are the levels themselves, and take around 3 attempts at maximum to finish. The controls feel a little on the heavy side, especially with getting air off of ramps. You can't wall ride or wall plant for more combo and level design potential, and it doesn't matter how hard you try or how good you smell, it's so easy to not land properly or outright clip through the obstacles. Tony Hawk Pro Skater is Crash Bandicoot 1. It's fine for what it is and amazing at the time compared to the competition, but nah, nowadays it feels like a bathroom trip after Mexican night. There was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. This is where, in my opinion, the legend was truly born. Pro Skater 2 put the dev team Neversoft on the map because at this point, they gave up on realism and stopped making you feel like you were skateboarding on a recycling bin. This was the beginning of creating your own skater, and you could call him Criff, who lives in the sink and is 5 years old. He also looks like this, but don't laugh at him, Criff is shy. This was where you could begin to use stat points that you earned in the campaign to max out all of your abilities and your balance sensitivity. This was where you could edit and customize your tricks. You could create and edit your own bloody parks. And how about the levels? There were more of them, they had a dump load more to do and far more secrets to see with environmental pieces to completely destroy with your sickness. They came with cash prizes that you could spend in the shop for more customization options. You could be hit by train, but more importantly, there were more tricks, which not only meant crazier scores, but way more ways to link them together with the ability to manual on the street and wall ride across vertical surfaces. And then there were the cheats. Oh lord, the cheats. You can believe you can fly, you can become a big boy, you can escape the game, you can go on the Atkins diet, but easily the coolest part, you could be Spider-Man. Look out! Here comes Spider-Man. Wait, what? The judges only gave me 99.9? What do you mean 99.9? Did you see what I just did? That's not enough for a full score? At least give me a chicken nugget. Now don't get me wrong, I'm still not a fan of the 2-minute time limit for the career mode. You could argue that it's arcadey and challenging, but I argue it's restrictive, stressful, and doesn't let you fully take in or explore the brilliant level design. And if you just so happen to agree with me on that, then don't worry, because the Tony Hawk series eventually did get rid of it. They kept on being made, they kept on improving, nobody could stop them, not even my mum. And she could stop a freight train by frowning at it. Oh look, it's Cash Banuka. That was alright, wasn't it? Oh look, it's Cash Banuka 2. That was great, wasn't it? Oh look, it's Cash Banuka Wrapped. Oh look, it's Cash Teat Rabies. But no matter how much people loved Crash 1, when Crash 2 came out and refined and improved basically everything, it was clear where the original should have been from the very beginning, and it looks kind of bad now. Because at the time, nobody knew any better. This type of game was a new thing in 1996, so people didn't 100% know how good this new gaming formula could possibly get until they experienced it for themselves. I mean, Jesus, people played Pong in 1972 and they thought that video games had peaked. That's it, guys, we're not getting any better than this. Pack up and go home. Wait, it's in color now? And nowadays, we all know the original Crash trilogy is classic because they remade them and they still hold up brilliantly today. The same can even be said about Crash's first attempt of a kart racer. Fantastic then, and fantastic as a remake even now. We also know these games are classics because its own series they came from really started pushing their luck when everyone started bitching about it. Now, where have I heard that before? Did someone call me? Next up, we have Barbie Explorer. Action as never before. Oh, wow. Does that mean that Barbie might bend her elbows? And would you look at that, she's actually doing more than using her joints. Check out this epic minecart video sequence. This is some dangerous stuff here. Barbie is looking like she's loving it. She looks pretty excited about death. So in this game, Barbie has taken it upon herself to find the missing pieces of a mystic mirror. Why? No clue. I thought she'd be too worried about breaking a nail. But if anything, I'm a little bit confused as to why we're in the middle of a story all about a mystical power that will reawaken and most definitely end humanity if we find all the pieces of an ancient artifact. This is a Barbie game, right? Hang on, sunshine. What do we have here? VR training? What, like in Metal Gear Solid? Watch out, world. Solid Barbara's coming through. Now, in virtual reality, you can do all sorts of things with Barbie, like teleport onto swinging vines, walk like an old lady with rickets, not jump onto climbable walls because God forbid we put any actual fun into our platformer, and then we get absolutely decked in the face by opening doors. What's my name this time? KFC. Because by the looks of it, Barbie could do with one. She looks like if she pushes too hard, she'll snap her legs like a stick. So when we get into the actual game, I'm absolutely shocked to find out that it isn't very good. To begin with, this basically feels like the original Tomb Raider. You don't have tank controls, but everything else you do from climbing to jumping has an abysmal delay to it, which would be fine if the game itself was built around it and wasn't a fast-paced linear corridor platformer like Crash Bandicoot. You try playing a game like Crash where you don't only have Tomb Raider delay, play, but also a jump arc that you are so committed to once you do it, you basically already had kids with it by the time you land. I mean, it makes sense, everything here has a purpose, but it's easily the stiffest platformer I've ever played. Bubsy 3D isn't this stiff, and at least Bubsy has more directions he can move towards so that his body doesn't constantly clip on angled parts of the wall and make Barbie bring out her funeral fashion pack. I mean, what else do you want me to say? Barbie looks like she has a mustache, there's no sound effects at all while she's pulling rocks that weigh as much as a truck, she outright absorbs herself into the walls, and please tell me, where are you going, Barbie?
Egypt, Africa.
Egypt is in Africa. But then again, judging by your face, I don't think geography is your strong point. This is a game starring Barbie, all about Barbie, in an action-adventure game with awful controls. I mean, I really can't go into any more...
I'm so sorry, these games are really getting me going.
Did you guys ever play Mickey Mania on the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis? It was a 2D Mickey Mouse platformer from 1994, and 2 years later in 1996, it got an enhanced PlayStation version with much better music and prettier graphics. I never played the original, but this version in particular I remember borrowing from my cousin many times. Just this box art alone is making me revert back to a kid again. Super nostalgic. And speaking of the box, this game is so confident that it doesn't even list any features on the back of it, or mention that it's a remaster. It's that full of itself that it thinks it can sell you on the screenshots alone. And to be totally fair to it, yep, it deserves to sell itself on the still images and nothing else, because this is easily one of my favourite looking PS1 games of all time. The whole concept of the game is that you control modern Mickey Mouse travelling through a handful of his classic cartoon history to help out his past self, and then moving on to the next cartoon. And it's a concept they do not skimp out on. From the Steamboat Willie stage gradually changing from black and white to colour the further you get, to the Meese fighting in the background of moose hunters, it just fires on all cylinders from the second you start. The pixel art and animation is delightful, and the way it uses the PS1's power to mix 3D objects into the hand-drawn style looks really good as well. It's really like they're trying to bridge the gap between a traditional 2D animation and 3D video game and make it seem as though the game aspects are breaking through the cinema screen to give past Mickey shit for modern Mickey to help him out with, and it never feels gimmicky. This is PS1 2.5D done perfectly. The game is really simple to play too. All you do is run, jump, duck, and collect marbles to throw. I mean, God, you start noticing things even on the first stage, Steamboat Willie. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. The platforms are often never quite low enough for you to make jumps. You can't throw marbles one after each other that quickly, and even if you do manage to fire off two pretty quickly, the second hit usually doesn't count against an enemy, and things will attack you from off screen all the time. However, all in all, it's pretty easy. But after that comes stage 2, the Mad Doctor. It begins immediately with bats that you don't have much time to react to if you don't already know they're coming. Then there's these skeletons that hurt you enough on their own, but also explode on death into multiple bones, a few of which can hurt you, and they blast off into random directions that are impossible to predict or work around based on what else the level is asking you to do, and an extremely fast minecart riding section that gives you barely enough time to react to saw blades, like, oops. And don't forget, you need to jump to attack flying enemies that are coming towards you, but if you do jump next to a rope, you'll automatically grab the rope and fly yourself all over the damn place, often back into other danger, like, oops. I lost all 3 lives that I had on stage 2, and I couldn't figure out how to earn any more. The game is really stingy with health too, and that's not a huge deal, but you can only take 4 hits, which massively becomes a problem when you get to stage 3, Moose Hunters, because look at all the shit falling from the sky here! All the while you need to dodge off-screen mooses. Following this is a chase sequence where there's a ton of obstacles, a turn that's slower than a recycling truck, and a jump like you're on bloody Saturn. And after that, it just keeps going. Stage 4, the Lonesome Ghosts, picky jump collision detection, a tiny field of vision in the dark, absolutely unavoidable damage, enemies you can't even kill even though these ghosts are already dead, projectiles flying at you from off screen, and it doesn't stop there. Stage 5, Mickey and the Beanstalk, where there are butterflies that are nearly impossible to hit, and dragonflies that take up half the damn screen and appear from nowhere, and if you get a game over, you begin the entire stage all over again, which means, for an example, on stage 2, if you lose all of your lives at the last boss level, you need to redo all of the 8 mini stages that make up that single stage all over again. Look at how I'm playing here. This overly cautious tippy tapping. It's not a fun way to play a tricky platformer. Plus, the game itself, in its box and everything, was not one of the cheaper ones to find on eBay, so save your munty. Right. And hey, while we're on the subject of Disney... Yeah, did you forget that Disney owned The Simpsons? I forget that at least once every 2 days. But I'll never forget the first time I played Simpsons Skateboarding on the PS2. Yes, once again, I'm revisiting another game from the vaults of my old horrible reviews. Like a cockroach after a nuke, my past always comes back to make me itch. What's this? No memory card. Oh, what a shame. I guess that means I can't play the game anymore. So thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I'll see you on the next Caddicarus show, same time next week, where I'll be stomping on a kitten live on camera. Well, hey, look at that. The first thing I see in this game is something that makes absolutely no sense. And the sad thing is that this still makes more sense than anything else you're about to see. The intro to this game is quite simply hideous. One of the worst I've ever seen. It's just a barrage of colors and an onslaught of ugly edits enough to give you a seizure or make you feel like you're dying from leprosy. I mean, look at this, come on. They couldn't even cut out the white in between Bart's armpit. And then after possibly the worst intro of all time, you get greeted to one of the worst opening themes of all time that either sounds like your CD is scratched or you're having convulsions. After this, well, this screenshot here should tell you all you need to know about the level of quality we're dealing with. Marge looking like a squid, and Homer looking like a week-old can of Spam. This is easily one of the ugliest PS2 games ever made from the starting gate, and then you actually get going and think to yourself, oh, you know, maybe I should try doing some tricks on the ground right now, like in every skateboarding game ever made. But oh no, you can't. Oh no! No joke, if you try to do something as simple as a kickflip, 75% of the time it won't work, and you'll be eating some grass-covered din-dins instead. Once again, you've got to push yourself along with a forward push without automatic acceleration from holding down your ollie button, taking all the flow and momentum out of the gameplay, but I'd be able to get my head around this if the game let me push my board up slightly steep slopes, or let me get out of half-pipe bowls that I can't escape from. But you can't. This then compounds with an absolutely pathetic ollie that sometimes flies you up to space and other times barely leaves the ground, meaning that you won't clear gaps, and sometimes you'll just accelerate from 0 to piss off in half a second. Absolutely nothing works in this game. It's actually a miracle how broken it is, as well as ugly. I mean, you look at that and tell me that's a person. That's not a person, it's a mound of beef. Don't forget the overly sensitive balance meter either. Or the fact that you have running commentary from your character and Kent Brockman throughout the entire game, and none of them ever shut up.
Oh no!
Kick flip. Come it. Tail radical. Very well done. Well done.
Sure, you could always argue that all these different characters have different stats that are better for different kinds of skateboarding tricks, but what I'm going to say in response to that is that Tony Hawk also has that system, but you're not absolutely incompetent at the start of the game. You can still do things, even if not as good as you will be able to later, but here, you can't do anything. I mean, look at this. Most of the time, you can't even grind anyway, and instead have the rail stick itself through your head. Personally, though, I didn't do much else because I decided to give up after I got decked in the head by a car. This is absolutely, categorically definitive garbage. The Bubsy 3D of sports games, probably one of the worst ever made. Sure, Phoenix Games had this abomination 5 years after Simpsons Skateboarding, but that's Phoenix Games. They probably put a blank disc into a sandwich toaster and then said, "Game's done!" But considering this is The Simpsons and sold at a much higher price than a Phoenix game ever would, I'm shocked that no one seemed to care if this game even worked. I don't know how anybody in the dev team tested this and thought it was passable. It's borderline impossible to play. It's not even so bad it's good. I don't feel any misguided passion or overinflated egos behind the creation of this. All I feel is the bitterness of an entire team who didn't want to make this. Considering it was aimed at kids as well, who probably didn't know or care who a Tony Hawk was, it's probably the most cynical cash grab ever made for a licensed game. It copies the Tony Hawk level design, Tony Hawk game structure, Tony Hawk mission style, and even Tony Hawk button layout, but butchers every other element up so magnificently, it makes me question why they didn't just do a full-blown rip-off of Tony Hawk entirely. Sure, it would have been unoriginal, but it would have been a good game. Look at this. If you even somehow manage to win a single thing in this game, all that satisfaction and frustration is spat back in your face as you only make 10 cents for it. Are you telling me that I'm going through all of this toss for a grand prize of $99? Are you insane? I use that kind of money to blow my nose and wipe it on homeless people, and you're expecting me to nearly die for that? $99? Shred Springfield? With pleasure. Yeah. The Zizzle. What? You don't remember the Zizzle? It's a classic. No, it's not an overweight calculator, it's a video game system. And my god, is it a video game system? First off, it's called a Zizzle. That's not a game console. That's what a sausage does in a frying pan. Secondly, who designed this plastic shell? Buzz looks like a burn victim and Woody looks like he just survived Chernobyl. And this would be bad enough. But then you turn them around and look at them from the side, and these ugly skin grafts attached to this bulky chunk of plastic is not where the horror ends, because you turn the thing on and...
Select mission.
It speaks! And oh boy, does it speak.
Mission.
On this so-called zizzle, you get a total of 5 missions to play, while holding the system with your left finger poking into Buzz's armpit. And as for Woody, we don't talk about Woody. And this is what the missions are. Mission 1, you move left and right to catch aliens. Mission 2, you press 1 button to do a jump every so often. Mission 3, you hold left and right while hitting 2 buttons to do high and low attacks against other toys flying towards you. Easily the most challenging and mechanically complex game on the Zizzle. Mission 4, you move left and right to cross a busy road while avoiding cars. And Mission 5, in the saddest thing I've ever seen, all you do is scroll through 4 things you can make Buzz do and press a button to make him do them. You can put his helmet on and take it off, fire his laser, open up his wings, and make him talk.
I am Buzz Lightyear.
This mission clearly only exists for those poor saps of kids that weren't lucky enough to get an actual Buzz Lightyear toy back in the day. This was their substitute. Just when you thought they couldn't mess it up anymore and that they should have let Crash Team Racing die with dignity, here we have another Crash kart racer, Tag Team Racing. But it's okay because Jetix Magazine says it's the best Crash game ever, and everyone knows who Jetix Magazine is, so immediately I do have to give Tag Team Racing some credit. The story mode here is at least something different and not another random alien invasion. The plot here is that you're battling Cortex and accidentally stumble into a theme park built entirely for roller coasters and racetracks. Is that a wang? And you get roped into recovering the power sources for each of the theme park's lands that were mysteriously stolen from Von Clutch over here. But we're only helping him to do that because whoever does help him wins ownership of the entire park, which Cortex really wants to do, and we can't let him do that. So Tag Team Racing is yet another Crash kart racer, if you couldn't tell. It's CTR and Nitro Kart again, but with a million extra pointless mechanics, and in my opinion, it's even worse. The car controls are unbearably stiff. The track designs are the opposite of interesting. The shortcuts barely mean anything. The music is boring. The engaging and skill-based jumping drift to boost system has been totally removed and replaced with an awful power slide move that doesn't even help that much. But the worst thing about it, to me at least, is the main gimmick that separates this racer from the rest: the clashing system. In any race at any time, the character you pick can turn into a ghost and clonk their way into another car of your choosing to merge with them. And as we all know, nobody can clink the clonk as good as Crash Badinky Donk. By doing this, you briefly turn the game into Mario Kart Double Dash but for war criminals, since you can swap between driving the car or aiming a weapon that has now attached itself onto the car in order to blow up everyone else until you run out of ammo. On paper, this sounds like the coolest addition ever. It's like Crash Team Racing meets Twisted Metal, especially since there's plenty of characters with unique weapons, there's loads of vehicle types with different defense, speed, and handling options, and plenty of unique visual combinations for certain carts clashing together. But all of this falls apart like soggy bread once you realise that you only need to clash with one car, and then you've automatically won every single race. Engine. You see, Engine's weapon he has are these rockets, and they are so overpowered, I'm pretty sure they could be used in tactical warfare. With these rockets, you mow everybody down with no effort, 1 to 2 hits max with splash damage. And whenever you're gunning, the CPU in the driver's seat goes around the track as perfectly as possible. So just make sure you fire the rockets, detach from your host like a dying flea right before the end of the 3rd lap because you get thrown forward every time you do detach, and then you'll find that you win every single time. When you're in this state, you are in complete control. You are a parasite. The helpless sap you attach to can't ever force you off. There's no time limit for this or penalty for overusing it. You can use overpowered race items in conjunction with the rockets. If you get blown up by other races, you recover 2 seconds later, still in the clash formation. And the best thing, if you run out of rockets, you can always detach and then immediately reattach again to get all of your ammo back. Sure, you can always switch driving positions and let the computer player shoot down the bogeys, but why would you do that when you can effortlessly get rid of the competition and not have to deal with the painfully unsatisfying driving mechanics? You could always say that this is an optional mechanic, I suppose, except it isn't, because if you don't clash with another car in any race, then you're a very weak target to every other car firing at you, and you explode so much as tumbleweed touches you. Not to mention, again, you're stuck with kart racing mechanics that feel like you're derailing a train, and other racers can attach themselves to you at random with as much consent as a Weinstein. Basically, if you don't clash, you lose, so why wouldn't you choose to clash with the most powerful weaponed racer? And then, once you you unlock Engine shortly into the game, it all becomes even easier since you don't even need to look for him in the race to grab his rocket. You can clash at the very start of the race to guarantee victory with any car without breaking a sweat. Look at these KOs. Look at these KOs. For a 3-lap race lasting around 3 minutes, this means I was averaging 7 KOs per minute. And so at this point, why does the track design matter? Why do the visuals matter? Why do the shortcuts matter? For even a small fighting chance in tag team racing, you have to use this clash mechanic, which means you'll end up doing the same thing repeatedly to win every time. Even the other modes for each track have similar approaches to them.
Oh, and did you know? This game is a platformer?
Yeah, Tag Team Racing also has a giant hub world that's as much of a single game as the racing itself, despite being called Tag Team. And my god, look at this. Look at this performance. The game didn't run spectacularly in the races, but this looks worse than my granddad's slippers. Couldn't you guys just focus on getting one gameplay style nailed instead of forcing as much in as possible? The jumping and general running around controls are so slippery and floaty, it's practically impossible to control where you're aiming towards. And even the spinning attack is lazy. See this? This isn't a Death Tornado spin power-up from the other games. This isn't a super spin. This is just what happens when you hit square over and over again. The animation resets and you can keep spinning forever, meaning that no enemies will give you any trouble. No shits were given at all, my lumpies and germs. You also get interrupted a lot by Chick and Stu, who you may recognize from Nitro Fueled as the chickens who announce all the DLC Grand Prix. I hate them there, and I hate them even more here.
Spend it like crazy on new stuff. Bling, bling.
Bling, bling. Yeah, that's what all the kids were saying back then, wasn't it? Bling, bling in my ding, ding.
To be totally fair to Tag Team, though, despite not being that fun to control, I do admire a few things they do in this overworld system. Firstly, they turned the death animations Crash is famous for into an explorative gameplay mechanic, as you can go on a scavenger hunt looking for hidden specific death cutscenes that quite often got a chuckle out of me. Oh look, it's Flat Bandicoot. Secondly, these are some pretty expansive and densely designed hub worlds, especially on the vertical plane, and all the pockets of coins you find are able to purchase more outfits for your characters, more cars, and even a few crystals that you need in order to open the gates that will take you to the next power gem you need to progress to the next world. There's a reason to explore other than finding the next race, and I like that. You know what though, now that I think about it, the balance is a bit too skewed in the platforming's favor, because winning a race only rewards you with 2 crystals, whereas you're going to be able to buy and find more hidden crystals in the overworld much faster in order to open up all these gates in the hub worlds to then find the hidden power gems and skip a huge chunk of the game without even doing a single race.
Welcome to Crash Tag Team Racing, where we don't like racing.
Overall though, Tag Team Racing is an absolute mess, and in my opinion one of the lowest points of Crash's console career. It tries to appeal to everyone, but ends up impressing no one. Half of it is Crash Team Racing, but with worse controls, worse performance, worse visuals, broken mechanics, and boring stale track design, while the other half is Twinsanity, but with worse controls, worse performance, worse visuals, worse enemies, and barely any really challenging platforming. Outlast contains intense violence, gore, graphic content, and strong language. Please enjoy.
I like you.
Here it is. The face that launched 1,000 2013 clickbaits. You are miles per hour, and you are a rough and tough alpha Chad journalist getting down and dirty with the inside scoop right from the source, with your latest report taking you to an asylum called Mount Massive, or as you could also call it, Lump Large. And once inside, you have to uncover the cruelty unleashed on the patients, expose the inhumane practices of the doctors and scientists, and avoid contamination by washing your hands before you can have your large willy meal with a Diet Coke. The game is kind of the same as the others. No way to attack, running around in first person looking for items, conserving your light source, hiding from enemies, and to give it credit, it might still be a little silly that Miles is walking around with a camera up to his eye like in Slender the Arrival, but at least there's a better purpose for it. Not only is he recording and documenting all of the horrors within the asylum, but he also uses the night vision mode in the camera to see in the dark, which you will need to use a lot because holy shit, this is a dark game. In Outlast, if you run out of night vision batteries, that's it. Enjoy the sensation of closing your eyes, but without the pesky step of closing them. Don't fret, there's batteries all over the damn hospital that just so happen to fit your camcorder's hole, and you'll need to look around for as many as you can because these batteries drain faster than me. I would love it though if a battery company actually sponsored this game, because what better advertising could they need than Duracell? They'll go for 10 minutes, probably. Shortly after the game starts and you get used to being the world's first parkour news reporter, you then get to a part in the game where they outright tell you to hide. So right, this is where the game actually begins, and shortly after avoiding the first big boy, you're then thrown into your first encounter room, which is where you notice how every sub-room has a table that you can run around, and there lies every problem I have with this game. The second you realize how every set piece and encounter room is designed with loops in nearly every room, aside from a couple of dead ends, the game quickly stops becoming about crawling around and hiding, and more about running laps around these mingers while they follow you around wherever you decided to get behind. I find Outlast to be one of the least scary horror games for that exact reason. Does that make Outlast bad? Not at all. I think it's great fun. It's a good old blood-pumping, jumpy, runny nose. But I treat it more like Mirror's Edge than Amnesia, which I don't think they were trying to go for, considering, you know, soup. Not to mention, once you start getting chased around by the Johnson twins and then find out that this hulking man goomba is called Chris Walker, a lot of the horror loses its gusto. This wretched brute is called Chris Walker. Would you be scared if you were chased by a monster called Tony Smith? And as for the prawn twins over here, one looks like a spud and the other looks like a coconut with hair. The only time I think the game figured out to go full on with the tongue-in-cheek nature of what's actually happening around you was when you run into Dr. Roast Beef, who greets you by offering you to leave while you're tied to a chair and then cuts your fingers off. And the jump scares are so frequent and over the top that they become more like shots of adrenaline to keep you playing the game rather than make you turn it off from being a piss baby, and some of them are so predictable it actually physically hurts me. To its credit though, when it does catch you off guard, it really catches you off guard. I'll tell you what it is, the game feels very mechanical. It feels exploitable in a way that Amnesia or SCP Containment Breach don't feel. Sure, the run around looping strategy doesn't work all the time, and you'll take a few hits or slices or maybe even a bum, but you will always get out without dying, and that does make it fun, but to me, not very scary. By the way, what point is Miles trying to prove by staying here? He's there to find out if anything bad is happening, he sees it within the first 5 minutes, catches it on camera, and then doesn't go home. Is an impaled security guard not enough for your BBC investigates? You don't need any more than this, just make like a leaf and go away like a leaf. The footage won't be usable anyway, not with all the times you shove the mic all the way up your nose. Look, I really like the Twisted Experiments angle with this asylum cult that formed out of nowhere. I like cult stuff, it's creepy. But along this half of the story is another half about a paranormal ghost creature that invisibly kills people. And I know that it is linked into the cult, but it just doesn't fit with, well, that. It's like two different stories are flipping back and forth between each other whenever it suits it. One second it's graphic body horror in a grounded and grimy, dilapidated asylum, and the next second it's ruh-roh raggy. And that leads to the final portions of the game and then the ending, which, man, nah, I don't like it. It makes me want to crap my own arm out.
I've changed my mind, I don't want this.
By the way, this supernatural entity causing godlike destruction, it's called the Wall Rider. That's not a demon, it's a Tony Hawk trick. I will say though, if I were to ever lose my head, I would sit exactly like this. Oh boy everyone, it's Simon 3! Yay, a donut! The final in the original classic trilogy made by Insomniac Games, and what a fitting developer, because as a kid, Spyro 3 made me into an Insomniac. 6-year-old me played this game until he ate his own hands off, true story. It's the best game of the original trilogy to me, without a doubt. I know people think it's the second one, but this game has a kangaroo doggy paddling in a lake. You're wrong. Is it because of nostalgia? Yes. Oh, sweet, you can pick your save file icon now? Banana! So to kick things off, even though I love Spyro 2's characters, I was never really fussed about Ripto or whatever his beef was. I didn't find him that funny, that entertaining, or that endearing, which made me not really care about what he was planning to do. But this time, I actually kind of cared about what was going on. You've got this haggard old minger called the Sorceress, who's so hefty you could send her out to the front line, and her apprentice, Bianca, who have decided to steal all of the baby dragon eggs that came from all of the adult male dragons. Very progressive, Spyro 3. Well done. And instead of stealing them and taking them back to their secret lair, they decide to just leave the eggs all over the damn place for anyone to find. Good plan, guys. I'm sure this won't rear up and ram into you.
Those eggs belong to us now, and I've hidden them in places you'll never find in 1,000 years.
The first egg is right next to where she was standing, and that means that this game's collectathon bread and butter are these dragon eggs this time, used to unlock more of the game. And the eggs are just so giddy over being found that they birth right in front of you, with no mess! Did that bow form in the uterus? You also have these baby dragons that don't like being caught unawares, and... Does this mean the dragons have genets? Now, somebody as nasty as this old bint stealing all of these adorable little babies is bad enough and already makes her appear more like a threatening Cruella de Vil, except scaly and large. But as the game goes on, you then discover she wants to kill them all and rip off their wings for a new spell she's working on. It's not even like she wants to eat them to keep herself alive or anything like that. She just wants to kill them so she can try a new magic trick. If that's not evil, I don't know what is. This causes Bianca to change her mind about being evil, takes her hood off, and that makes Hunter go,
You're a fine-looking woman!
Taking that all aside though, I also really appreciate how much more the gameplay and story are integrated together. There's way more cutscenes showing off what a cow the sorceress is, which builds up to her final boss really nicely. Throughout the whole game, Bianca keeps appearing out of nowhere and taunting you. And even with the levels in each world, instead of just going through each of them, helping the people out and then getting a magical thing to open a door to get closer to the final boss, instead you go to the levels, help the creatures out, and then as thanks, they all work together to build you a new transport method to get to the next area where you can find more hidden dragon eggs. When Hunter gets kidnapped halfway through the game, for a brief amount of time, all of his side missions and all the levels are unavailable. So come on, get on your ass and save him so you can come back and get more dragon eggs. Everything you do in Spyro 3 has a reason, and it just fits into place better, you know? As for the game itself, well, everything that Spyro 2 did to improve on Spyro 1 is here. Everything from the controls to the weird and wonderful character designs that talk to you like they're grazing in a field. But in my humble opinion, it's just Spyro 2 plus. It's Spyro 2, but even better. Not by much, they're still both incredible games, but this one beats it out for me just slightly. I mean, yeah, they removed the charming intro and outro level cutscenes, which does mean some of the levels start with, "There are Rhynocs everywhere, kill them!" and end with, "Here, take this egg." But everything else for me was chipped off and polished into the ultimate Simon experience. The camera is panned just a little further back to let you see more of what's around you. None of the temporary power-ups are gated off by enemy defeats. You can stop skating while ice skating now. They brought back way more long gliding platforming sections and secrets that Spyro 1 had, alongside more chances to supercharge than Spyro 1 and 2. Every character around you reacts to being set on fire now, which is a lot better than Spyro 2, where they just stand there, defiantly. You know, not that I flame the characters that much anyway, because so many of them are too adorable and I just want to help them out with their problems.
Our sun has gone out.
Well shit, you're dead. They even added races to the classic Speedway obstacle levels. They're really boring, yeah. Oh, also, Sparks the Dragonfly talks now. I love it. Moneybags came back and he's still a festering wart. Although he doesn't sound like a drunk anymore.
I can let you into the little castle over there in exchange for a few gems.
And now sounds like this.
Spyro! My, how funny to see you here.
He's more like a naughty, jovial uncle that tries to sell his nieces and nephews the warm, opened, sticky sweets from his pocket. You know, bollock sweets. So yeah, he's back to make your life miserable, and so is the caveman with his skeleton friend who's lost all his bones. And yes, he even does the bone dance again. Although this time, he goes on for so long that the regular stage music comes back in the middle of it. It's perfect. You know what? I don't like this Cloud either. Even when you complete his mission and make him happy, the best he can give you is this terrible face. But Moneybags does a little bit more this time instead of just ripping you off to get through doors. Get this. Now he works for the main villain. In fact, he comes right out the gate the first time you see him and just says the sorceress is paying him to be a tool. And he's standing guard for a collection of new animal buddies with their own stages that are fully playable. And once you buy them off of him, you can visit older levels that have their locked doors inside to then get in and find even more gameplay scenarios to make you go, wow, there's more gameplay scenarios. People often feel a bit like these are desperate ideas from a creatively spent development team, but I couldn't disagree more. They're desperate ideas from a creatively strong development team. First off is Sheila the Kangaroo, an adorable little muppet that takes the standard gameplay and flips it on its side to be about vertical height exploration more than long-distance gliding. And I find her levels extremely fun whenever you launch into the air and smash downwards. And according to the Reignited trilogy, she isn't female unless she has pigtails and a vag. Next up is Sergeant Bird. And just like that, with the wave of my wand, you're a secret spy just like James Bond. He is an MI5 flying penguin agent with rockets on his shoulders, and I find his parts fine. Not the best and not the worst. In open explorative bits with free flying all over the stage, he's a joy, and I appreciate how you can toggle on a below view for aiming drop missiles while still having full control of flight. But in tight spaces, it's like trying to fit an apple in a nostril. Then we have Bentley, a friendly Yeti who for some reason is also a London Cockney.
I genuflect to my noble deliverer.
I don't dislike him whatsoever, but he is my least favourite character to play as, purely because he walks just a little bit too slow for me. I love how he stomps around and smashes everything without any effort and reflects projectiles, but a little bit more speed would have been appreciated. Not to mention, he's so big that he blocks off the screen from the dragon that you just saved. Move it! And lastly, there's Jim Carry Monkey, who uses a rebounding laser gun, grenades, strafing, and first-person sniper shots to get through his sections. I like these a lot. They're good fun, especially when you find his most powerful weapon, the Child Beard Gun. Plus, in those hidden Speedway bonus levels, you get to do them as Hunter. And that makes them better and more fun than Spyro 2 because it does, and you are listening to me. And hey, did you know that the first ever water birth in a video game was in Spyro 3? Yeah, I'm not joking. Here it is. Welcome to Planet Earth, kid. That's what your lungs filling up with water feels like. Alongside all the animal buddies Simon can save for extra gameplay, you can even control Sparks for the first time ever in his own top-down explorative shooting sections, which I really enjoy as well. You can boost, strafe, use limited power-ups all over the place, and when you finish each one, you unlock a new permanent ability for Spyro, like pointing Sparks towards the direction of missing gems, an absolute godsend, or giving yourself one extra hit before losing a life. But there's literally nothing I dislike in this game or don't look forward to. Nothing. The worst part in any single Spyro game that's ever been released is in Spyro 3. Yes, I'm not exaggerating. Spyro 2 has more low points, but this single low point in 3 topples all of them on its own. The boxing match with Bentley and this filthy rat is utterly unplayable. You're supposed to have 3 attacks and a block, but absolutely none of these moves come out when you need them to. Either the delay is way too much, or Bentley is way too slow. Whatever the case, this stinking piss rag is able to perform every move at twice the speed as you, and somehow manages to combo when you're unable to, and blocks nearly every attack you perform like he's reading your mind. I could go on all day about this abominable challenge, especially when you win 1 egg for beating it once, but then need to survive for 3 rounds for a second egg and come out the other end with the most health, which if you aren't deathly lucky, will take you over half an hour, and it's enough to give me a Diane Weist infection. Now ask yourself this, if a video game about a platforming purple dragon came out in the year 2000, what will it add into it to make it immediately much better? That's right, skateboarding. I shit you not, there's Spyro, the magical fantasy medieval dragon, on a skateboard in space. This is the most long john backwards ass thing I think I've ever seen, but man, I just don't care. It's so much fun, especially the races when you have to keep doing tricks mid-air to build up a speed boost. How can you not love this? Look at him go! That's how I feel about Simon 3 as a whole, actually. It can get pretty stupid, but I just don't care because I'm having too much fun with it. And even if I'm not completely enamored with some of the new stuff, it doesn't matter because most of the game is you and Simon. And the increased charging and gliding segments for his gameplay specifically when compared to Spyro 2 are great enough for me to not mind the more experimental angles. And Spyro very frequently violates personal space.
Be sure to keep your friend Sparks the Dragonfly healthy, Spyro.
And do you mind getting your nose out of my dress? Wow. This bit always gets a laugh out of me. In the mission where you have to protect the ice skater and you mess it up, the enemies end up playing hockey with her. You can even go to Rome and set fire to the Pope! Okay, you can't do that. But you can skate in the Roman Colosseum, though. That makes up for it, I will admit. There's also these penguins here in frozen altars with these voices that I can't decide if they're horrifying or a massive turn-on.
It would be easy to get up to that treasure if you had something to stand on.
Yeah, they're horrifying.
Purr. I don't know why, but I feel really cold.
I swear they are this close to starring in a Netflix serial killer biopic. Oh, and the music this time? My Christ, the music this time? The music in this game it just makes me want it. This is one of my favorite video game soundtracks ever, of all time, period. It's everything that made Spyro 2 music so great, but amped up to 11. It's catchier, more percussive and rhythmic, groovier, more varied in genres. bosses are pretty good too. There's more of them than in Spyro 2, and they all look and feel completely different from each other. Not to mention, I think they all look pretty threatening as well, which is a plus. This guy used to terrify me as a kid. That face gives me a heart attack. I hate it. One tries to knock you back into lava and then sneezes fire at you. One tries to shoot you with ammo that you can steal from him and use back at him. One flies around the arena, showering you with attacks and other enemies to chase you, and is only vulnerable while moving instead of being stationary. And the sorceress herself is like a mix of all of them together, but now with the added bonus of using temporary vehicles to blow her up. And that's more or less how this all ends. After you've done your best sitting there for 3 hours watching the professor do this. No. Putting up with Hunter's bullshit.
Thanks. Did you bring any chips?
And saving all the dragons like Mingus. Mingus? What kind of name is that? Actually, fair enough. He looks like a Mingus. Bianca becomes a good guy. You beat the sorceress by shooting her in the goddamn head. Then Hunter and Bianca become a couple. Ugh, guys, get a read. I don't want to see this shit. This is a kid's game. There's not supposed to be any lewd in it. But just like any Simon game, we aren't done yet. After we grab every single gem and dragon egg in the game, we unlock one final endgame stage. We've been to Nasty's loot, we've been to Dragon Shores, and now our next stop is Super Bonus Round. In all fairness though, I think this is the best reward of all the games. It calls back to Nasty's loot in terms of it being another actual level, but now there's way more treasure to steal, way more ways of interacting with the stage, way more interesting things to see, places to explore. It's a great unlockable final level, and then this follows on to the true final boss, the sorceress. Again.
I don't know how she did it, Spyro, but the sorceress must have survived that last battle.
What?
Wait, how did you get another cameo? Yeah, I don't know either. It's almost like they ran out of ideas, and the worst thing is that she doesn't even come back stronger or angrier. She came back on her mobility scooter. This is honestly not a very good hidden boss, but you know, it's not Spyro 1, so I don't mind. And as for the super secret 100% hidden ending, it is just that. And that's why this is the best fucking game ever. I'm not kidding either. I treasure Spyro 3. It has an adorable wolf puppy you can play fetch with. It has Breets. It has a bit where you play Doom. It has a Matrix reference. I mean, who wasn't doing a Matrix reference in the year 2000? It has cowboy dinosaurs. I mean, do you have any cowboy dinosaurs? If you do, can I come over and see them? It has the ultimate revenge fantasy that surpasses Kill Bill by letting you chase down moneybags at the end of the game and burn his completely flame-resistant pants in order to steal all of your gems back from him. So I think it's safe to say Spyro 3 really is the year of the dragon. Well, what a perfect little trilogy for the PlayStation. I'm sure glad it stopped there and they didn't try anything else. So Crash Nitro Kart was sort of a sequel / spiritual successor to Crash Team Racing for the PS2 era, and oh boy does it feel like a game stuck in the shadow of its better big brother that the parents love more. In many ways this is just a carbon copy of Crash Team Racing, but just not as good. It's even apparent in the adventure mode. The plot of CTR is aliens, and the plot of Nitro Kart is aliens. But instead of Oxide threatening to turn Earth into a giant concrete parking lot, you have this guy called Velo who just steals you to race a bunch of times to entertain other aliens on another planet. That's basically it. And his beard is the shape of the first letter of his name. Nitro Kart does actually give you a good first impression. Instead of making you pick one character only for the entire adventure like in CTR, you get to pick from either Team Bandicoot or Team Cortex, allowing you to swap between 3 different characters with their own unique driving styles and kart stats whenever you want to in between all of the races. And that's not all. You even get unique cutscenes for each team throughout the story mode based on who you pick. But then you realise that they didn't bother to fix the facial animations for the mask. What's my name? Easy. Sloppy. Nitro Kart gave us a fair amount new and good. This was the game that introduced a new boost formula where the closer you leave the drift meter to the burnout, the faster boost you're rewarded with. A brilliant risk and reward system that they later brought back for Nitro Fuel. They gave us unique track designs with trap crates to break that activate different obstacles on the track to sabotage other players. There are some great new items like the tornado that picks up anybody it touches and goes around half the track. There's anti-gravity gimmicks in the levels that Mario would later copy in Mario Kart 8 11 years later. The adventure mode has this frenzy system where a meter slowly charges with your teammates throughout the race, after which you're able to use as many random items as you can before the timer runs out. The visuals can be absolutely breathtaking for a PS2 game, and hell, they even brought back the staples from CTR that made the adventure mode stand out in the first place, like the 3 token collection races, crystal grabbing arenas, and the time trial relic races. And since they already copied so much that worked from CTR, it would only make sense for them to copy the addictive, maniacal, and bouncy control style. But they don't. Even though you're not playing the game right now, you can probably see the downgrade just from the footage. Nitro Kart has absolutely no sense of speed or heaviness to the karts to make it feel like you're burning rubber against the terrain. It feels like you're floating along it. It's very flat and unreactive, which wouldn't be so bad if the jumping and drifting didn't feel limp and splatty, and the turning didn't feel like you were unfolding an ironing board, but it does. Especially with the highest speed, lowest turn characters, unless you're drifting, it barely feels like you even turn at all, and you even slow down if you hold a turn for too long, because clearly someone thought you weren't going slow enough. Even driving into the levels is a pain. Driving into the levels is difficult. Stop judging me, it's very hard. Oh look, we've got a boss race heading our way. I wonder who will be fighting from the Crash universe today. Oh. Him. This delightful little cherub is called Crunk. Don't know who he is? Neither do I. And instead of being introduced in a comically personalized way, where he's talking directly to the camera and intimidating the player, he instead gets forced into racing us by Velo. And then he says, "Nah, I don't want to race them, they're smelly." And then Velo says,
"Oh, come on, please, Daddy."
And then Crunk says yes. Yeah, that is the quality of the boss races we have in Nitro Kart. And as for the race itself, well, I've got to be honest, I'm not even sure it was a race. See you later, monkey beta! The pathetic boss races aren't all either when it comes to the difficulty of Nitro Kart. In fact, when you mix in the Team Frenzy mechanic and new boost formula that is outright broken when you get the hang of it, this ends up becoming the easiest kart racer I think I've ever played. And the boss races don't even allow you to use Frenzy, so that's how easy they are. Topping all of this off is a piddling number of tracks compared to CTR as well. And even though this is supposed to be a high-tech advanced PS2 follow-up to Crash Team Racing, Nitro Kart ends up being one of the most unpolished games I've ever played. Constantly clipping through the floor is one thing, but it's another thing when the frame rate tanks whenever there's more than 3 karts on the same screen. The shields don't even work half the time, and in some races you're even able to crash. How the hell did you do that? I genuinely love the track designs and the visuals of Nitro Kart, but even if you can get past the performance problems, there's no point coming back to this whatsoever since it controls worse than Crash Team Racing and doesn't feel as good to play, which in a kart racer I would argue is the main thing you need to get right. That's why games like Mario Kart 64 or Double Dash hold up so well after all these years. Yeah, they've put some of the tracks from these games in the future installments, but you can always feel safe going back to these ones because you know you're going to be having a great time controlling the karts. Oh, and by the way, the loading screens are terrifying. Why don't we start off with the first ever Pixar game that was ever released, which is nowadays infamous for the weird as hell graphics, the uncanny environments, and really weird blocky gameplay. Yeah, I'm going there. There's Toy Story on the Game Boy. Yes, remember this one? Toy Story 1? On the Game Boy? We can point and laugh at the SNES version all we want and mock the lack of
Silicon graphics computers.
But I thought it would be way funnier to play the most primitive video game from Pixar at the time that it was released. And you know what? I should have just stayed on the menu, because as soon as the game starts, it gets worse. How do you put this diabolical waste onto a Game Boy? This! Oh my god, this is so rancid that there isn't even a word for it. The controls are really bloody loose as well, but hey, what are we even doing here? Because I don't know. As it turns out, the goal of level 1 is to find a bucket hidden in the stage, open it, and then watch it start shitting. After that, you head off to look for a radio and knock it down to the floor. Oh. Hey. You okay there, Ham? This is one of the most mangled things I've ever seen. Why didn't they just do their own art style instead of taking the entire SNES game's graphics and trying to squeeze it all into a creamy brick? Just look at this aggressive amount of green. It's hurting my eyes. Do we need to call child services? Does Andy live in mold? These controls, I can't even begin to explain them. They're just completely... Ah! What? That's it? The level's over? Woody, are you okay? Do I need to call an ambulance? Anyway, sorry, the controls. Yeah, I mean, I know you can't feel the controls watching this video, but I'm sure you can get the correct idea by just looking at this footage. This isn't Toy Story, it's Alien. Not just because of the green and black everywhere, but because we float around so much we must be in space.
And no one can hear you scream.
Just you try and do anything in this game. Just you try. And can I just ask, what is it with this game and excrement? Rex, you look like a gnarled up turd, and I'm really not a fan of your running animation. In fact, all of the animations in this game are buggered. What's going on here? Why is Buzz swimming in midair, and why is he splayed and waiting suggestively for me on the bed? Is it because I'm Woody? These levels go on forever, man. Look at this. How ridiculous is this? How big is Andy's room? Does he live in one giant corridor? What kind of kid is Andy anyway? Why does he have 1 million copies of the board game Drafts? And why is he obsessed with this single book called The Fishman? But the amount of time I spent playing these two games on the original Xbox is medically concerning. If you've ever played any modern LEGO game based on a movie series before, LEGO Star Wars and LEGO Star Wars 2 were the impetus for that gameplay style. They were the first, and in my opinion, it was never done any better. Kick some brick in 1 through 6. Back then, being able to go through some of my favourite childhood movies in a silly platforming adventure with lightsabers, blasters, and force powers was enough, but it was made even more enjoyable with all the giant levels, dozens of collectibles to unlock cheats and bonuses, endless replayability, LEGO building, puzzle solving, incalculable destruction, and hundreds of characters to play with their own unique abilities, even giving you the choice to build your own characters with their own abilities and weapons. When these games first came out, you had to get 2 separate games for the full experience, but now you're able to enjoy it all on the complete saga for the PS3 and Xbox 360, which is not only these 2 fantastic games in one, but gives you even more on top of that. But wait, that's not all, because very soon from the time this video goes live, there's going to be a LEGO Star Wars Skywalker Saga game for current consoles and Steam, allowing you to play through every single Star Wars movie in one package, and I can't wait for that one. And now we're on to the Xbox version, clearly and obviously the better game between the two, and the one that I spent the most time on as a young'un. You get to do all the things that superheroes do, like beat up bad guys, roll around in a force-field ball at 1,000,000 miles an hour to knock down guards and solve physics puzzles, turn invisible, try to get sticky bombs off of capes without actually trying to get the sticky bombs off of capes, race the school bus to school in the middle of broad daylight when you're supposed to be hidden under cover, save all of the civilians that look like ducks, and get to the scene of the crime just in time for your chin to save the day. Just like the GBA version, this is a beat-em-up game, but just way more varied, interesting, explorative, and there's more powers to use, more platforming, and I mean, it's on the Xbox, look at it. You also get to crush people under steel girders in a kid's game. The game looks pretty good for an Xbox title, you know, except for Mr. Incredible's crouching animation. And for some reason, there are quite a lot of graphical oddities and texture glitches in this game. The cars have metal nipples. Maybe it's because I'm playing this on the Xbox 360, but I don't know, man. Some of these things just feel like they're part of the game to me. This is the greatest graphical bug I've ever seen, and it's absolutely terrifying. Not only does the wall dress up as Mr. Incredible, but the floor does, and even entire skyscrapers. Look at this. I know Mr. Incredible is big, but he's not that big. Sadly though, for as much as I loved this game as a tot, especially the Violet and Dash ball rolling stage, it can be pretty tiring in places. The combat is nothing special at all, and there's way too many grouped enemy encounters that require standing around and waiting for more waves to appear before you can move on. And with instances like these battle tank mini bosses, the amount of waiting you have to do just to get an attempt to hit them 1 time out of 3 is agonizing. But it's okay, because with the cheat code SAS mode, you can jack up the speed of the game to 300% and make it utterly unplayable. But at least waiting isn't a problem anymore. Speaking of speed, the best bit of the game will always be the fact that you can control a speeding child and get run over by cars. Yes, I did it! Average speed 147 miles per hour, I ran for 13 miles, and I burned 187 calories. I did all of this and burned off the same amount of calories as a Kinder Egg. Exercise is a lie. The last time I played LEGO Racers 2 was about 15 years ago. Sure, I remember loving this game as a kid. I put hours into it. But this advanced PS2 sequel, I haven't touched since then, and I've replayed the original LEGO Racers loads of times. That's not a good sign, is it? Ever since I made my LEGO Racers 1 video back in 2012, I had so many of my viewers from back then desperately ask me to play LEGO Racers 2, and so I'm honouring that request right now, 8 years later. So if you were 90 years old and were asking me to cover this game back then, I'm sorry that I'm talking about it now that you're dead. The game opens up with a cinematic showing us Rocket Racer, the big main final boss of the first game, trying to deal with his humiliating defeat against us at the end of that game. He hears about a galaxy-wide championship, jumps back in his car, goes through a portal, and picks up a load of these weird tiny little LEGO Racers characters which I remember having a few of when I was a kid. And after all of that, that somehow means he's the best racer of all time again, and we need to beat him again. Okay, what is my name this time? Hello, Hello, I'm Carp. It's time for us to build a character again, and unfortunately, we have a lot less pieces to choose from compared to the first game, but that doesn't mean I still can't pick the worst choices from every category, and I hereby dub this creation Pneumonia Naked. Time for us to build a car, and luckily, I've learnt more than enough from my car building in LEGO Racers 1, so this time I can make this car the best it can possibly be. The beginning of the gameplay itself starts off pretty quaint as you're plonked onto a little island and are challenged with racing all of the local workforce, wasting all of the taxpayers' money with racing tournaments and spending the rest on diggers that can drive at 90 miles an hour. Also, yeah, sorry about these weird black lines on the screen during the cutscenes here, but this is because I'm fast forwarding them manually during the gameplay since you can't skip them, even though I really wish you could, because boy do they drag on and on, even when you speed them up. Plus, speeding up everything leads to scenes like this. Am I about to be sacrificed? Target 1, the construction worker, and this is a pretty easy race, but then again, if you're in a racing game and lose to a digger, you shouldn't be playing it. Target 2, the postman, who boasts that he knows the island inside out better than anybody, but that doesn't matter because we have to go through specified checkpoints that we are given arrows that point towards them, so all of that knowledge means nothing. Target 3, the fireman, who... Target 4, the policeman. And to be honest, Mr. Copper, if you can't keep up with somebody that's driving a car with no way to look out the front of it, you shouldn't be a policeman. After you've done all of these races, you're then whisked off to the first world of the game, where you then get your standard 6-player races until you reach a boss racer at the end, similar to how LEGO Racers 1 handled it, but with just every race being individual instead of one after the other in a single Grand Prix. This isn't all you get to do though. You see, LEGO Racers 2 pushes the PS2 hardware to overdrive, since there are no race selection menus to navigate. All the race choosing and world traveling is done within an open world, much like in LEGO Island. Within these worlds aren't just the races, but also secret golden bricks to find that unlock more worlds later on, hidden mission, tornadoes that give you a minigame to complete for an upgrade to your car's speed, grip, or shields, and many other secrets and surprises. But the cost of this is the fact that the game itself couldn't seem to fit any other original racetracks onto the disc alongside these worlds, and so everything you do in each world takes place in exactly the same location. And that's not all. Every single hub world uses the same song, every single minigame uses the same song, and every single race only uses one song per world. Not to mention they're all taking place on the same island and all feel exactly the same to race on. The only major thing that changes in the races is the weather, but Christ almighty, if you're gonna tell me that changing the color of the sky constitutes a totally new and original racetrack, then I suppose you won't mind taking a sip of my new yellow water. From world to world, it's all the same story. You explore and race around exactly the same locations, along the same routes, with repeated music over and over again, meaning that despite the game featuring 5 worlds with 4 to 5 races each in them, in actuality, it feels more like 5 races in total in the entire game, because each race in every world feels exactly the same.
Unless, of course, you count the final race against Rocket Racer, but that track is just one big circle, so it's a big load of piss.
This issue is then compounded with the removal of the unique, clever, and very LEGO-oriented brick stacking power-up system from LEGO Racers 1, instead opting for just a small handful of power-ups that barely have any impact, aren't very imaginative, and have no strategic angle to grabbing and using them. So, in essence, LEGO Racers 2 is weaker than the first game in practically every way, except visually. And even then, for a PS2 game, it still doesn't have 4-player co-op. There's no defense for that, because the first one should have had it in the first place. What is this game's problem? Well, at least it has some glitches. Actually, I say the game looks better, but that's a lie most of the time too, because when there's more than 2 cars on the same screen, the game itself sucks its own farts and leaves the building. Something that is maybe even more terrible than the performance of the game, though, is the performance of your wheels. The grip your car has against any terrain, whether it's dry as a bone or wet as a tongue, is absolutely horrendous. What is this game? LEGO Racers 2? Much grease. And with how brutal the other races are on the tracks, any single mistake on a race often means you've lost immediately and just need to restart. That being said, I do like a few things in this sequel. Firstly, in keeping true to its LEGO roots, whenever you get hit by a weapon or drive too fast into a corner, you lose a few specific bricks from your car that you built. And whenever you drive through a rebuild gateway, all of your car-specific bricks that you lost are magically clicked back onto your car, meaning that for any car you make, you get unique rebuilding animations and unique destruction animations during the race that leaves your own car in different stages of destruction based on the bricks that you used yourself. I know I'm over-explaining it, but there's not much else going on in this game, so I'm trying to make it sound exciting. Oh, you can also give yourself a tiny little boost if you accidentally knock your own bricks off. It's not very impressive. Oh, and if you end up damaging yourself too much, your entire car can be destroyed until you find the next rebuilding gate, meaning that you then have to race while running around as a little minifigure. You can't use any power-ups and you're really slow, so this isn't a good thing, but how cool is this for a game about breakable Lego cars racing each other? In conclusion though, this game is a pretty piss-poor sequel in my opinion. It's got some great ideas and good scope, but it's way too samey, way too monotonous, and look at this, kids aren't going to be able to stomach this. They're going to want to put the game away and go straight back to their Lego Elsas and Lego Bananas. I mean, even the building kind of sucks. Look at it, instead of being based on what bricks you can fit on what part of the car, here it doesn't matter because you're stuck with a limited number of bricks to use at all times. It's probably because of the destruction system, but what kind of bric-a-brac is that? Everybody knows that the more bricks you can mount together, the better it feels. Yeah, you know, the classic skateboarding series. Metal Gear Solid? After the original Metal Gear Solid on the PS1 blew everyone away, with Solid Snake being the only character in a video game able to pull off a 1080-degree quadruple pop shove it, here he is, back at it again on the PS2 and pulling off some steezy tricks all up in Arsenal Gear's rectum. Yes, that's what it's called. You are skating on a robot's poo muscle. This is the most incredible, yet most uncanny thing I've ever seen. Obviously, if you know MGS pretty well, this may appear to be a joke or a fan mod on top of an existing skating game. But no, this is an official Metal Gear Solid skating game with its own kick-ass hard rock remix of the theme song. How did this come to be, though? How do we go from a story-driven stealth action game involving social engineering, conspiracies, artificial intelligence, evolution, existentialism, censorship, and child exploitation, and end up with Solid Snake doing some gnarly grinds on top of a terrorist base? Well, that's because this is actually a bonus feature on the re-release of the original MGS2 known as Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance, but only on the PS2 version. It's a great little pack. It comes with the main game, obviously, but also gives you a making-of DVD, more than 350 VR missions, the chance to replay the main story missions from Snake's perspective instead of Raiden's, and this bloody ridiculous skateboarding minigame built entirely on top of the engine for another Konami game that had just been released, Evolution Skateboarding. I guess they wanted to try advertising this game to me by slipping it into a Metal Gear Solid skin, but they overdid it if you ask me, because I've got absolutely no reason to play that one if I've already got this. Look at it, why would I ever want to play the other one? And of course, there's my personal favourite, Toy Story 2, which is basically if Mario 64 was thrown into the Toy Story universe with ingenious open levels to explore, tight responsive controls, badass power-ups, tricky challenges, amazing music, and a rapid-fire super laser. Also, Buzz looks like a bloody potato. The other 19 games, though, I've never touched before. So let's touch them. This game was everywhere. You could not escape it, and now I'm bringing it back again because I hate you. Slender came out in 2012 and is based on the infamous Something Awful forum fictional monster Slenderman, a gangly, long-limbed creature with tentacles, no face, a dapper suit, and a nasty habit of teleporting around and stalking, then kidnapping children to take them back to his private island. I have no idea, and you are in a forest because I have no idea, and you need to collect 8 pages scattered around the forest because Slenderman wrote down all of his passwords for his 4chan and Ashley Madison account. Rookie error, man. As you start finding more and more pages, Slenderman becomes incrementally more aggressive with stalking and chasing you, and as soon as you find the first page, he even begins banging a drum to let you know he's on the pull. Look, I really don't know the point to any of this. I don't know why we're here, what we're doing this for, why the pages are important, and why Slenderman gets increasingly more upset with you for taking them. You just have to accept it. As much as you have to accept that the game itself isn't that goo. With a silent D. You just walk forward, pray that the pages have spawned in locations you can easily find, turn around whenever you see Slend, and then whenever the screen goes a bit staticky, that means Slenderman is close by, so just keep moving in another direction. Follow these steps, and eventually you'll just win. It's only a matter of time. Sorry, I mean it's only a matter of patience, because this is the slowest piece of dump I've ever seen rolling down a hill, and I see them a lot. I work at the slow rolling dump factory. There is absolutely no reason why you should move this slow. My grandma moves quicker than this, and she's dead. What makes it worse though is sprinting, because you do go a little bit faster, but because of some terrible motor development skills in childhood, your man can't move faster while holding his only source of light in front of him. And that light doesn't affect the game in any way. It just makes you able to, you know, see. Do you want to walk slowly into something or sprint slowly into nothing? This game has so many choices. There's at least 3? The pages aren't even that hard to find anyway, because they all spawn in specific landmarks that we all recognize from our local forests, like the popular forest shower rooms with no toilets and a sad chair, or the popular forest gas canisters, or the popular singular wiggling tree, or the popular forest tubes with nothing in them, or the popular giant rusty forest cylinders, or my favorite, the world-famous landmark of the perfectly aligned identical rows of giant sausages. And by the way, for such an abhorrent psychological stalking kidnapping menace, Slend doesn't ever show up. Instead of playing the game itself, I preferred to play Find the Thing the Game is Named After, because that in itself is much harder than actually finding the 8 pages. Whenever static begins happening, I deliberately looked around and he just isn't there. And whenever I turned a corner after grabbing 6 pages, which is when he's supposed to be popping up all over the place, he's never there. Follows? Does he? That's news to me. Always watches? No eyes? Actually, that adds up. I can't find him because he has no eyes to see where the hell he's going. Help me? From what? Even if he does catch you, he just looks at you and the game ends. Leave me alone? Well, yeah, you don't have to worry about that. He left me alone hours ago. I wonder if there's a page that describes exactly how I'm feeling right now. Oh, here it is. No, 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 no. And why do you deliberately blind yourself every time you move a little bit faster? In fact, how are you even sliding along so smoothly? Are you a pensioner that got lost at 10 p.m. on his way to the co-op? You know what? I'm going to keep tapping shift to sprint a little bit while also keeping my torch halfway up the screen to see. It's the best I can... Ow. I can't even look at this like, oh, well, Slenderman looks a lot like the tree, so your mind plays tricks on you, because you look at this and tell me that you would confuse it with a tree. He doesn't even look disturbing on his own. That's not an interdimensional stalker. It's a guy who missed the bus and is watching it leave. And when you eventually do see him, he doesn't do anything scary either. He just stands there and does nothing like a child at Disneyland too nervous to say hello to Goofy. And by the way, for a free game and being made by one person, everything else in this game looks alright. So why is it that the main threat that the game is named after, the worst looking part of it? Why is he like this? Oh, and on my first attempt at finishing the game, do you want to see how I died? Everything was cool, no static, no following around, no nothing. I grabbed a page and then... Yeah, that was fair, wasn't it? Now you start from the beginning and very slowly slide around looking for pages all over again. And then on my second attempt, the exact same thing happened.
I found this scary 10 years ago.
You know what, though? I shouldn't laugh, because whenever you chuckle, it makes you a cuckle. And trust me, you don't want to be cucked by Slendy. Now this is where shit starts getting good. Yes, you lads, it's Spyro 2. He's back, and I'm back. Look alive, everyone. It's Simon 2, Ripped My Ropes. Or as I personally know it, Simon 2, Great. A garden. To be honest, I prefer the European name of Gateway to Glimmer against Ripto's Rage, but I will admit it is strange. Glimmer is just the first level of the game. You're never looking for a gateway to it. That'd be like if this was called Crash Bandicoot Sand. Straight away, we've got much better cutscenes with actual story in them, and boom, bang, bing, we've got new characters who are better than anything we saw in Spyro 1. You've got the Professor, who's a bastard mole, got Alora, who's a fawn, you dork, and Hunter the Cheetah, who always looks like he wipes with his fingers. Even Simon's voice is improved.
Is this rain ever gonna stop? I've forgotten what the sun looks like.
If you don't know, that is the voice of Tom Kenny, and if you don't know who that is, I'll give you a hint.
Now they've set up force fields to separate us. If you can find diodes, you can use them to turn off the force fields.
One thing though, why, only in the cutscenes, does it sound like the voice actors are spitting into the mics?
That's exactly the point. A dragon is our only chance of stopping Ripto.
Oh, there's also the new baddie, Ripto, who is very small and angry, and that's basically all there is to him. I never really understood the love for him as a villain, I'm sorry. And these 3 bozos accidentally summoned him to their world, so intercepted Spyro on the way to his holiday. Oh, sorry.
Vacation.
Yeah, your best friends in this game kidnap you and hold your holiday hostage until you fix their big messy. Thanks so much, you woman. donkey! Spyro 2 as a game, though, is basically Spyro 1 again, but everything is better. Literally everything. It's like jumping from Crash 1 to Crash 2, or pre-vomit to post-vomit. There's just so many quality of life changes here, it's not even funny. The glide falls a little bit slower to make long jumps easier, the charge control's a lot tighter and lets you jump higher while charging to make rushing around levels twice as easy. Sparks the Dragonfly picks up gems from further away, he eats butterflies from burned animals much faster than Spyro 1, the camera moves around you a bit faster, the sound effects are guttier and have more punch to them, and on top of the updates to existing ideas, there's all of the new stuff added in too, like auto-saving, which was a massive deal, because back in those days, we didn't have it. Now you have a hover move to give you extra time to correct a glide and give you a tad more height and distance at the end of your glide. Now, instead of getting extra lives from the life clam, while Sparks is at full health, you can stack him with multiple burned animals to eventually give you a life if you eat enough. Spyro can spit. Enemies now don't drop gems to collect and instead add to a defeated enemy tally that can help you unlock a temporary power-up specific to that level, giving you way more chances for supercharging alongside brand new powers like spring jumping, projectile super breath attacks, and temporary flight in the level. And speaking of levels, you now only need to collect one thing at the end of the stage to beat it, with optional missions dotted around each level, awarding you orbs that can be used to unlock further levels, bosses, and secrets. And they can sometimes be centered around the platforming that Spyro does best, or something totally new and different like hockey matches against this freak, various puzzles hidden around the stage, or blowing up a load of UFOs piloted by and to top it all off, when you collect everything, you get a little dote! The Speedway stages return and are exactly the same as previously. Okay, that wasn't new, I'm sorry, I don't know why I mentioned it. But now after you beat the main time travel challenge, you can then freely explore the Speedway level without a time limit to find secret hidden characters to talk to that then give you more unique orb missions that change up the gameplay even more. And then you can end your day by being a flag-burning filthy hippie. Yeah, down with vegetables. Oh yeah, there's also way more cutscenes now too. Some for entertaining story bits, and others for whenever you enter and exit a new level, just to give them that extra dash of personality and depth to them. I like them. You see what the problems are in the level before you get there, help them out, then you fix the problem and see what happens after you leave the level. What's cool though is that every level has inhabitants to talk to now, and they're nearly all fully voice acted. The only other thing you could interact with in Simon 1 was the balloonist, and sorry man, not only did you not actually speak, but you were only ever good for being a stepladder. Even the fairy checkpoint talks to you now. She's called Zoe, and she likes to pitch shift her voice at random.
That zap means that if you get into trouble, I'll return you to this place.
Each time you defeat an enemy, it will release a spirit particle.
But then there's another character introduced in this game that would go on to become a Spyro staple.
Hello there, Spyro. Would you like to learn to swim underwater? I suppose I could teach you for a small fee?
Moneybags is a round bell end, seems to exist everywhere all at once on every level, and only lives for one thing: locking things away from you and stealing your gems in order to unlock them for you. That's all he is. He's a fat, greedy barrier that has no conscience, no dignity, and only cares about money. He is a leech, a stain. Oh, what's that? You want to sell me a trip on a submarine to get by a load of robot sharks? Pfft, I don't need any of that. You're scamming me. Look, see, I don't need to... Okay, fair enough. Oh, look at you there, Moneybags. Are you a little cold from the snow? Oh no, wait, it's just your soul! My favourite thing to do with him is actually use a double jump glitch in level 1 to not only completely ignore him and his stupid bridge, but also use the same glitch to get on top of a ledge that I'd also need to pay him later on in the game to learn how to climb, and then finish off the rest of the level without paying him a cent, meaning that I can then afford his swimming lessons right after level 1 without needing to go into another level first to try and save up enough.
This has been a money-saving tip with Daddy Caddy. Next week, we'll find out how to stop yourself from spending your own money by learning how to keep pennies in your ass.
The levels are bigger and give you way more stuff to do and leave a longer lasting impression, but they aren't so big as to make you go, oh no, I can't eat that. And the music is miles better as well. In fact, I'd go as far as to say it sucks. Milkshake through a big straw. It's way more creative, zesty, multi-instrumental, and more percussive. There's even vocals on some of the tracks, my favourites being the one that sounds like a meditating Mr. Bean. Then there's all the little monk dudes with their mouths that look like urinals and they go... If you ask me though, the award for best line in the game easily goes to...
Even though I'm a vegetarian, I think you should kill that Yeti.
He's so hardcore about killing an animal that he even goes off script.
Kill! Oh, by the way, I have a theory about this game that I don't think anybody has ever brought forward before. Hunter is Ripto.
And no, I don't mean just because of their exact same size. Other characters in the game are all like,
can you help me tie my shoelaces?
and then you help them and they reward you. But Hunter, he deliberately bricks himself in igloos and hides orbs from you until you nearly kill yourself on a jet ski parachute. He won't give you 2 orbs that you desperately need to save the world unless you run around in a sub-zero cave catching crystals to amuse him. He won't give you the items that you need to defeat the man that he summoned himself until you jump on his captured manta ray and follow a seahorse through a bubble of fart. He plays dumb, but he's not dumb. He has like half of the orbs you already need in his pockets and just doesn't give them to you because Lamau. And have you ever noticed how you never see them together on the same screen? He's the bad guy here. He is Ripto. I also love the way that so many characters have that low poly PS1 over-exaggerated head and mouth shape too. They all look like talking drum cymbals. There's even this one level where you run around and find all of the bones of a skeleton to put him back together. How beautiful is that?
It's so good to see my friend looking healthy again.
Does he? Oh no, what does that mean? What's gonna happen? Yes, I had to sit through the whole thing, so you had to as well. Now, let's move on to...
I think he wants to dance for you.
Oh, no. My favorite part of the whole game, though, is when you get to World 2, Autumn Plains, and find this level called Zeph, where there are all these slugs on the ground in the middle of a civil war with these birds from the sky, and you help out the slugs by destroying the birds' ammunitions building.
Wow! What an explosion!
My disc is a little scratched. But then immediately after that is another level called Breezy Windpipe, where you go to the homeland of the birds in that same war, and then you help them get their airship running again so they're able to counterattack, ensuring that the war can rage on for many years to come. I love Zephyr anyway, though, because there are these baby birds that spit ammunition from mother birds, dropping it from the sky into their mouths, and when they don't have anything, they're like, Mummy, I'm hungry, feed me, Mummy. Oh, you're hungry, are you? Yeah, well, I've got your mummy right here, you little scab. Then there's a bit where there's a slug named Romeo and a bird named Juliet in a tragic star-crossed love on the battlefield, and you need to reunite them in this extremely fun magic seed platforming puzzle where different platforms grow in different soil, and when you want the seed back, the soil clenches like a bumhole, and after solving the puzzle, Juliet sounds like this.
Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Oh, there's Romeo.
There's just so many fantastic moments here. How about that mission where you have to get the professor's pencil back by trading an egg with a nest that spits out a seed to go into a plant pot that spits out a rubber duck that goes with a duck family to give you a turnip, okay, which then needs to go into a cauldron which spits out a coin that goes into a water fountain that gives you a very soggy pencil. It's so good, man. And how about the secret agent that sounds like,
I'm a secret agent.
And when he's looking around to make sure you aren't following him, he does that. That is how I'm looking around for things for the rest of my life. And the robots in Metropolis, they're adorable. Listen to them.
These elevators need serious work, see?
Even the bosses are an improvement. There's only 3 this time, but it doesn't matter because they all make up for the wet jokes that were in Spyro 1. They actually have attacks. They're fun fights, and in Gulp's case, even a little bit challenging. This is one of the better bosses in the whole Spyro series, actually.
As great as Simon 2 is, though, I don't think it's perfect. In fact, there's a couple of major real low points for me. This is way too hot.
And Pushing Up Roses can name like 50 of them, can't you?
Oh, Spyro.
Mission in Hurricos where you have to put lightning stones into power generators and then have to defeat the thieves that keep removing them and throwing them around the level. I mean, look, I'm very glad that I finally get some representation. But man, does this take forever. It isn't difficult, just immeasurably boring. This part here where you need to flame fish into this angry Tiki's mouth, I can't stand this bit. You need to get 10 fish in his mouth, and any red fish reset the counter by like 1 million fish. But by the time you see the yellow ones and decide that they're the ones to flame, it's too late to flame and you miss the mouth. Nowadays, I just cheat this bit by looking directly into the water in first-person mode to see what fish is coming. Well, is it cheating? I'm just using what the game gives me. I'm a good boy. I wash under my arms.
And of course, there's another bit, which is possibly the most infamous part of the whole game. But before we get there, I just have to ask you a quick question.
Trouble with the trolley.
Okay, well actually, get ready for me to be a contrarian. This isn't hard. It's not easy, but it's really not that bad. I don't know what you're talking about, you whinging wets. In fact, while recording footage for this video, I finished the mission first time and then had to start the mission again and deliberately blow up in order to record the guy saying,
"Trouble with the trolley, eh?"
I mean, I don't know what to add. It just isn't that hard. And you know what else isn't? The turtle soup mission. Yeah, I said it. What's the big deal? Just keep looping around the pipes that they spawn from and then knock the turtles away if you come across them. They'll bounce all over the place and it gives you plenty of time to get them back in the water. What's the big deal, you baby bitch buggers? And the dinosaur egg hatching and eating the village people. Yeah, sure, I failed this one like once or twice, but once you get the pattern down, it's just like Simon Says, but if Simon only had 8 Simon noises for you to copy, and then Simon played the same Simons every time you Simon. And what about the bombing genie mission in Scorch? Not a big deal either. Did it on my first go. Here's a tip for you if you're struggling. Stop charging after him and stick to the wall so that you avoid most of the bombs bouncing off of them. You can't rush this bit, just go slowly, especially around the steps. You're gonna hate it if you try charging, trust me.
Nah, mate, you wanna know what the worst mission of the game is?
Will you escort me past those Earth Shapers?
No! How about instead you suck my nads? I hate this. I hate this so much. So you've got this motherless goat who has a potion to give Hunter because he wasted his month's rent on a new pair of concrete Nikes, and even though the goat is literally next door to where Hunter is, he momentarily forgets how to steer his own legs and ends up going on a cross-country marathon instead, deliberately walking right into all of the enemies, changing his mind on where he's going all the time, getting in the way of you rushing around, and you can't get rid of the enemies. All you can do is knock them back temporarily, so getting them all out of the way of him in advance won't work. And the best thing, the 10 out of 10 game of the year best thing that happens is that if you finish this mission, Hunter then says, "Thanks for getting me out, Spyro, but you need to learn a new move to help me kill all of these monsters." So you carry on playing the game, learn the move, come back to the level to help out Hunter, and he couldn't wait 5 minutes to put his Adidas stones back on, meaning you've got to do the first part of the mission all over again? What's that? I already have this orb? I had no idea. But anyway, you finish the game and do everything. You get the orbs, grab the talismans, run away from this horrific face, and wonder who decided to bring back the bush munchers from Spyro 1 so you can place an Aztec curse on their family. You finally beat Ripto, and he just accepts his death. Oh, screw it, I can't win. Everybody celebrates, Hunter sits on Moneybag's face, and we finally go on a holiday in a lovely final cutscene.
It isn't a cutscene, I got you.
Dragon Shores is the final level that is literally just a fun fair that rewards you with tickets in order to unlock a theater to watch the game's cutscenes again. Internet. You play a game of water dunking, ride a roller coaster with a cannon to pop balloons, go to a duck shooting gallery, and never question why the biggest enemies from the first game are now welcoming you into a dark room inside a theme park with no one else in it. And you know what? I also really like the little love boat tunnel because it taught all the kids that played this game that you can love whoever you want. You can love the same gender. You can find love even if you're a smelly, hairy yeti. If that's not your style, you can be on your own. You can have a three-way, what? You can love children, excuse me? And after all of this, if you found every gem and every orb in the game, you unlock a door that grants you a permanent super breath attack, which is now obsolete because the game is already over. Screw off.
Unless you do a Tiger Woods. And cheat.
Yeah, just quit the game and then start a new game that overwrites the completed save file, and voila, you now have super breath from the minute you start the game. How sick is that? And that's not all that you can cheat. Do you want to make Simon look like he has leprosy? Because you can do that. What? That's still not enough? Well, how about a big head mode? Yeah, you can do that too.
Finally, a game character just for me.
What? Is that still not enough? Well, how about this? You put Spyro in a trouser press. The end.